whilst operating out of PB Clifton, C Company were working on a rotation. So we had 3 platoons, not including HQ platoon. We'd have 1 platoon that would be on patrols, 1 platoon in CP Malvern, and 1 platoon on Up Diamond. So we had a couple of taskings as a company whilst we was there. One was obviously to conduct deliberate operations in the area, and the other one was to provide security for the Royal Engineers. So whilst we was in PB Clifton, the Royal Engineers were building a bridge over the River Helmond, which was to connect the northern area that we was in down to the city of Goresk. In order for them to do that, though, they had to travel from PB Clifton down to CP Malvern, where they'd then go out and build the bridge. But in order to get there, they had to travel down what we called Route Sefton. And early December, when they were clearing this route, they actually hit an IED and lost one of their sappers. Sapper Elijah Bond was killed in action, and that's where Up Diamond was born from. So we ended up deploying onto Up Diamond, which was where we would provide 24-hour security, like giving eyes onto that route in order for them to be able to travel down on a daily basis and get that bridge build done. So before we go on to operations, like before we went on tour, pre-deployment training, like I went away and become commander of a Mastiff, and the private soldiers would go away and become like a driver, and other guys would go and do a gunner's course, which would be up on top cover with either a HMG or a mounted GPMG. I hated really being in vehicles when we was on tour. Like, I much preferred being on foot. I didn't have to go in vehicles much, luckily. I didn't like the feeling of being in the back or in the vehicle at all, really. Like, you can't really see the ground sign as much, so I always felt like there was much more chance of me hitting an IED. And also, I hated the feeling of being in the back. Like, when you're sat in the back and you've got all your kit on, and you just think, like, if something really did happen, we've only got like a tiny little door there, and then you've got a tiny little hatch to get out of the top. It was just a feeling like I didn't really like. I felt like I was a little bit more out of control. So we deployed onto Up Diamond. Now Up Diamond was 12-hour, I think it was like 12-hour rotations we done. But we would just go out and we'd just maintain eyes on that route pretty much. But if you listen to like any of the recent episodes, like so when we went out on patrols the week before, we came out on that deliberate op. We went down Route Sefton. We chucked a dogleg over to Nark Hill, which was exactly where Platoon Sergeant got blown up. So we're sat on this route, you know, like a week later, and we're sat on there for like 12 hours a day. Joel's my driver, Joel's on the patrol as well, and we're sat there for like 12 hours a day, just like having eyes on, but onto the route. But not only having eyes onto the route, you know, we could see exactly where Jay got blown up like the week before. We could see the field that we done the Kazivac across. We'd see the exact area where the HLS landed, and it was like I think I'd probably kind of just like sit there, and it wasn't like I'd be replaying it. Kind of be looking at that area, and I'd be able to like in my mind, like, I'd be able to like see us conducting the Kazivac and like see my multiple doing the Kazivac across the field and stuff. And then even when like managed to like try and push out deep or just like try not to look over in that area, it just kind of felt like I'd be like looking down reading, and it kind of felt like something was just like staring over at me, you know, like when some, like, even though obviously it's an area so it didn't have eyes, but it just felt like something was just staring at me the whole time. Now, Joel was obviously on that patrol with me, so Joel was like even closer to Jay when he got blown up. So Joel was like probably like 2 to 3 feet away from the bomb when it went off. And I think the only he was sat next to 2 other guys, and I think the only reason they didn't get hit was because they was lower down in a ditch, and Jay was a little bit higher up. So I think when the bomb went off, it went off in like a V shape, which probably like literally just missed them 3 blokes, you know. So they're extremely lucky. But so we'd sit in that wagon like for like 12 hours a day, you know, and as I said, we had eyes on there, but we never really spoke so much about the patrol. It was more so like he would sit in there and like write letters to his little boy Stanley. So he's got a couple of kids now, but at the time he only had 1 kid. And on the day that Jay actually got blown up, I remember him saying to me about like he just felt like he wanted to get home to Stanley. And it's like I always like had this feeling like on tour about like not even on tour, just ever since tour, I think, like guys that deployed that had kids were a little bit more important than myself, and in my eyes, guys that didn't have kids. And I'm not sure, I don't know where that came from, you know, but it was like I just personally felt like I was a little bit more dispensable to to die as opposed to they are, you know. It was always like this little feeling like I'd much rather they got home to their kids than I got home to my missus and my family. And I don't know where that came from. It was just like this weird little feeling that came from like being on tour, and I think I've held it ever since. I'm not sure where it came from. I've still not got kids, so but I do know like obviously that massive change that happens in a person when they do have children. But yeah, it was just something that I noticed, you know, and it was a beautiful thing to see, and it's just I always wondered how how it felt for guys going home from tour that did have children. You know, I didn't really get a chance to speak to many of the guys when they went home from tour, but I always wondered, like, having that bit more purpose to, when you have got a child, and how much does that change things when you do get back from tour. You know, I can imagine there's got just as much challenges as positives, like with like making you feel those emotions and making you feel that love. You know, it's like incredible to see when he was sat there writing those letters and knowing that there's like the purest form of love that he was putting down in those letters. You know, because like in those moments, like especially when Jay got blown up, like Joel went to, in his mind, and rightly so, you know, he went to like, I want to get home to my child, you know. But for me, it was like, my thoughts definitely didn't go to anywhere near my family or anything like that. My thoughts were firstly just obviously on Jay, because obviously I was a little bit different just because I was the commander in that patrol. But even in my other moments, like when I wasn't the commander of the patrol, back when we was like with A Company, for example, and I got fucking all those bullets landing right in my face, like I didn't even go to my family then in that moment. You know, it was like in those kind of moments, like that was the first kind of few moments when I first started praying to God. So I didn't like go to my family, and like when people say, oh, when your life flashes before your eyes, you go to like wherever, you know. But in those moments for me, I didn't go to my family. I went to, it was some moments praying, and then in other moments it was just in the moment, just switched on, you doing what you're doing. But you know, the guys with kids ended up going to, in those moments, thinking about their children, which is like it's just a different thing, that just something that I've always thought about over the years, something that I'd highlight. But bit of a shorter episode this week. It's been last two episodes, like as much as like I've sat down and thought about all these episodes, like the last 2 weeks have been a little bit like a bit heavy as such, you know. Like I kind of think, I know what episodes I'm doing each week, but I start thinking about on like the Monday, even though I know like what I'm talking about and stuff, like I think about on the Monday, maybe like I'll write some points down on a Wednesday, and then it's just like kind of like ticking over. So after like a couple of heavy weeks, like last two episodes, they might not seem so heavy, or might seem a bit easier to talk about. They are like they're just a bit tiring, you know. I'm actually doing this episode on a Friday. I normally do it on a Wednesday, but this week, like I spoke about in that last episode, I felt like this week I probably just haven't had that bandwidth in my head to just get it all done, and took a bit of time off without just getting my head in the diary and writing all the notes about all my episodes and stuff, you know. Just a couple of heavy weeks doing it, but thank you very much, guys. See you next week.